Hey, the first story in this week's episode is upsetting. This is your trigger warning. I will warn you it's grim, but stick with me. Stay by my side and I promise I'll make it brighter, I'll make it better. These stories are horrible, but I promise it's not all doom and gloom. I go outside every day and I look at the people walking the streets, living their life, going to work, drinking in bars, people walking with their children, fathers holding their daughter's hand to cross a road, drunks spilling out of a pub, a man walking his dog at 8 a.m, a 15-year-old girl on her phone. Maybe it's a group of friends taking a selfie by a statue. Maybe it's a guy holding a pint in a pub with a blank look in his eyes. Maybe it's the old woman waiting on the next bus, clutching her bus pass. I go outside every day and I look at people walking the streets, living their life, and I wonder, will you be the next one? Are you suffering in plain sight? Can I see you now, but tomorrow you'll be gone? I can't promise to have the answers to questions about suicide. And I can't promise that as I write this in a pub, surrounded by 17, 18 people, that one of the people in this pub won't go home tonight and kill themselves. And I can't promise that you're going to like these stories, but I can promise that in this episode, I'm going to take you on a journey. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Okay. Shout outs. Okay, shout outs go to Berghain, not the club in Berlin, but Berghain, whose shout out was requested by her parent Barry Dahlberg. So Barry and Berghain, hello to you both. Love this family thing. Love this, like, families getting involved. I'm getting a lot of this at the moment. Oh, my sisters getting involved, and I've told my niece about the podcast, etc. Love that. Okay, Mayor Schumacher, hello to you. Sarah Caulfield, how are you? Hope you're good. And lastly, Amanda Leonard. Hello Amanda, thank you so much for getting in touch. Alright. So I've already warned you. The first story in this is grim. But stick with me. Stick with me to the end. Okay? Let's go. Lance Buckley met his wife Amy in their early 20s and they very quickly fell in love. They were both living in the Washington DC area. So very quickly they met and they began to build a life together and they married in their mid-20s. So they just, they met, fell in love, knew it was for life, got married. So the couple, they're a really beautiful, beautiful couple. Lance has got this sort of long hair. He's just looks so healthy and so full of life. He's just got every picture of him. He's just so handsome and just so, yeah, he just looks really brilliant. It's the way that I look in every photograph. I'm so lying. Do I fuck look like that? Okay, I wish I looked like Lance. But yeah, he just has this kind of like real health and real, like, looks like he's just got a real zest for life. And Amy, his wife, she is gorgeous. So together they're just this beautiful couple in their mid-20s. So Lance, now he was a doctoral student at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He was studying microbiology. And to sort of top up his income, what he would do is he was a teaching assistant at the university as well. Now, him and Amy, they were living a modest life in an apartment in DC. And Amy was working a kind of variety of different jobs. Basically they were cobbling together everything that they had to kind of try and sustain some kind of a living. They didn't have very much money. I think we all know how that feels. It's not easy because Lance was a student stroke teaching assistant and Amy, with just her variety of jobs, not a great deal of money coming in for either of them. But, they're only in their mid-20s. So, they're just kind of young and in love and getting through it. So around about the 5th year of them being married, Amy falls pregnant. And, well, the couple at this point, they have to really think about their future. Lance is really, really deep into his doctorate. And, yeah, they really have to question what are they going to do to support a baby. They're absolutely thrilled that Amy is pregnant. They really want a family, but they're just not really financially ready. So what they do is they move in with Lance's parents, the family home that Lance grew up in, still in Washington, D.C. It's the best solution, really, for the couple at this time. And, it's also the best solution for the grandparents. They get to be around for the birth of their first grandchild, for the arrival into the world of this new baby. And so they move in, and before long Amy gives birth to a healthy and gorgeous little girl called Claire. So they find themselves living with Lance's parents for a good few years. Lance is continuing his studies. Amy, she's spending her time raising their daughter Claire. A few years into this, Claire's 4 years old at this point, Amy falls pregnant again. What are these two? Animals? I'm kidding. Now the couple talk about how thrilled they are again to have another child coming in to the world. But while outwardly to the world they're saying, yes, we're thrilled that a second baby is on the way, behind closed doors they're actually really stressed about the fact that they're still living with Lance's mum and dad. And that now, with a second baby on the way, doesn't really look like there's a way out of that situation. And Lance is beginning to become incredibly stressed by the situation. Can he be the father that he needs to be to two young children while he's still studying and not making a great deal of money? He is, in truth be told, Lance is starting to freak out about the situation. 2 kids and not a lot of money coming in. Do they want to be living with their in-laws? No, not really. Is there a way out of it? Well, no, they can't really see a way out of it. either. But this doesn't really dampen their excitement about the new baby. So before too long, Amy gives birth to the second child. They have another girl and they call her Abigail. Oh, a gorgeous name. Love the name Abigail. So life continues, but for Lance the pressure is building. He wants them to be in their own home somewhere, but he just cannot afford this. So skipping forward a few months, baby Abigail is 11 months old. Their first daughter Claire is 4, going on 5, and something strange is about to happen. On a Tuesday, a normal day like any other, when Lance would get up and go to the university, he gets up, he goes, but he doesn't come home. The evening arrives and Lance doesn't come through the door at his usual time. Right, so his family assume, well, he's been held up. He's just been held up by something. It's not anything to worry about. Amy, on the other hand, she knows that a pressure has been building inside of Lance, and she's concerned. She's worried. She's worried by the fact that he's not come home, and that he's not called to say that he's going to be late. So, a few hours pass, and he's still not home. Amy is calling his phone over and over and over, and it just keeps going to voicemail. By now his parents start to worry, and so they go looking for Lance. They go to the university. No one has seen him for hours. They're continuing to phone his phone, still going to voicemail. Where the fuck is Lance? They call police, and police say, we'll do a quick look around of the university, but really until it's been 24 hours, there's not much we can do. So 24 hours passes, Lance is still not home, and a missing persons report is filled in for Lance. The search for Lance intensifies massively over the next few days. It turns now into a national missing persons case. The news, it's showing Lance's face and asking for any information about the missing father. Has anyone seen him? Does anyone have a clue where he is? The way the news chooses to portray the story of Lance is very much the missing father angle. I always find that really funny with missing people's stories. You know, they always find the angle. It's always a missing mother or a missing father or a missing daughter. And what they do is they ask Amy to go on TV and ask for any information at all. And on national TV she says this: I want to find my companion, my best friend, the man I love. She says the babies we have, they are my oxygen. They are the reason I continue to live with Lance missing. She says I am facing my own personal hell, thinking I might never see my husband alive again. But I have my 2 precious girls to return to, and I will pray every day that Lance comes back into our lives. Amy, in discussion with police, offers up some interesting information. Police are asking, would he take his own life? And Amy explains that, yeah, he's been stressed recently. And for a while now, he's been very uptight about money and he's been really worried and things have just sort of spiralled out of control. And yes, he's had a few dark days here and there and some dark periods, but she doesn't think he would take his own life. And police ask, is there anything he has that he could take his own life with? And she says, yeah, he is in possession of a gun. And police quickly jump on this, because now what they've got in their hands is a man who's missing with a gun. And it really starts to cause them concern. 4 days pass and there is no word from Lance. There is no sign of him. Then, out of nowhere, Lance appears. He's discovered living in the grounds of the university. And for 4 days, he's been hiding in student accommodation. He's just been hiding so exceptionally well that he was never detected by police or by anyone. He's done a fantastic job of just hiding himself in a way that no one would find him. So the search is called off. Okay, Lance is found. He is home. He comes home to his family and of course they are fucking so relieved to see him. What happened? They ask him. Lance, tell us, what the hell happened? You had us literally worried beyond all belief. We thought you were dead. And he can't really explain it. He never explains it properly. He just says that he needed time away. And he's not really sure what happened on the day that he went missing. He just knew that he just couldn't come home that night. And then the next day came, and the next day came, and then the next day. And then eventually he just thought, no, I can't do this. I can't do this to my wife. I can't do this to my 2 daughters. I can't do this to my family. I need to re-emerge in the world. Okay, so clearly it's been a really stressful and a really horrible time for everybody. But everyone's willing to just put it behind them and just say, okay, he had a little freak out, he had a little episode, it's okay, we'll just move on. So life goes back to normal, and for the next 6 months, everything is quite peaceful, it's fine. Lance is still going to the university on a daily basis. Claire is now 5 years old, baby Abigail is 17 months old. They're still living with Lance's mum and dad, and everything looks like it's returned to normal. That is until one evening when Lance makes a call to 911 to report the following. He says there are 4 dead bodies in this living room. 3 of them have been murdered and 1 is a suicide. Police ask, who are they speaking to? And he says, Lance Buckley. They say, can you repeat your name? And he says, yes, I can. Write it down. It's Lance Buckley. Police ask him, what's going on, Lance? What's happening right now? And he says, there are 3 dead bodies in this living room, and I will be the 4th. He puts the phone down. 10 minutes later, police arrive at the living room where Lance had made the phone call from his parents' house. And they find Amy shot in the head, 5-year-old Claire shot in the chest, 17-month-old Abigail shot in the head, and Lance dead in an armchair with a bullet wound through his skull. At this stage, at this point, there is nothing police can do. It's now just about dealing with what's in front of them. Lance Buckley had decided there was no way forward for him, and that the best he could do for him and his family was take them all on a journey to death. A funeral for all 4 of the Buckley family was held 2 weeks later. And the people who gathered at that funeral, and the people who had watched when Lance had gone missing months before, all asked themselves, what more could have been done to help Lance Buckley? And so ends the story of Lance Buckley. Okay, now that is horrific. I know that. It's a horrific story. And I guess, it really brings about a lot of things. For me, my first reaction was, fucking bastard. What a dick. How could you? How could you shoot your 5-year-old? How could you shoot your 17-month-old baby? How could you do it? But I took time to question that. I took time to think about it. I took time to kind of go all around it. And it raised a real question for me that I think is missing in everything that I've read about in this story. Lance and his actions, they get chalked up to the following things. Either it was a moment of complete madness, so he just freaked out and lost the plot. I don't believe that for a second. I don't think that's what it was. I think the warning signs were there long before. Or the other theory is that Lance was bipolar and it had just gone undetected. Again, there's nothing to really prove that Lance was. I have another thought. I have another question, and it might just be me reaching at something, but it really made me think about the possibility or just the existence of male postnatal depression. I mean, I had to ask myself, for a start, does it exist? I mean, of course I know it exists. But I had to actually look at it and think, does it exist? Okay, well, what is it? Is it talked about? Is it recognised? Is it fuck? Of course it's not. I mean, every day in the world, men are suffering from the same thing that, women go through when they have babies, and it's just not recognised with the same gravity, and that fucks me off. In female postnatal depression, it's linked to the fact that the female body has been through 9 months of change and has carried and grown this baby. And when that baby is removed from the woman when she gives birth, that detachment, that baby being out of the body, and obviously, of course, all the emotional upheaval that comes with that is what causes a lot of postnatal depression. But in men, just because they're not physically carrying the baby, it's less recognised, but it's still very real. I just think it's interesting. When I examined the Lance story, I thought, I know he was struggling with the fact that they were living with his mum and dad, and I know that he was struggling with, he wanted to provide for his family, but that's a very common thing for anyone to go through. It just I think the fact that he went missing 11 days after the birth of his second child and hid in student accommodation and just did not want to be found by the world. I think on reflection, I know he slaughtered his family, and I'm not taking that, lightly in any way whatsoever. What he did was absolutely fucking horrific. But he did want children badly. But it just seemed that with the birth of each of his children, he kind of lost a bit of himself, and he lost a bit of his grip on who he was at that time. I'm throwing that out there, and I don't have answers. And I'm in no fucking way am I excusing what Lance Buckley did. Amy, Claire, Abigail, they did not deserve to die. But I don't think Lance deserved to die either, shooting himself through the head. I think there's a bigger problem there that needed to be recognised earlier, that needed to be dealt with, and it might just have actually stopped this fucking horrible murder-suicide from happening. Okay, that's the end of that story. I will just say before I move on, obviously, I am not a doctor and I'm not a psychiatrist. So if I've said anything there about postnatal depression that people want to say, Barry, you're fucking so wrong in the way that you said that, please tell me I'm wrong. I won't be offended. I'm just working off of research that I've done. I'm also working off of people that I know who've had a really, really tough time after kids have been born. So I'm just, I'm gathering all of that information. But if you want to come at me and say to me, Barry, you got that so fucking wrong, please tell me. I don't think I'm wrong in saying that it needs to be recognised that there's excuse me, can I stutter anymore? That would be brilliant. Why am I making that noise? I don't think I'm wrong in saying that I think there is something in men post-birth that needs to be dealt with, but I might not have fully dealt with what that's like for a woman. So if I haven't, I'm sorry. Please inform me that I haven't. I'm always open to criticism and advice. Alright, now, that was doom and gloom. That was hard. But believe me when I say this, you won't. You'll think you're talking shit, Barry. You're talking nonsense. But I'm going to tell you 3 short stories and prove to you that not all suicides need to be sad. Okay, story 1. A window cleaner named Barry, good name there, Barry, Barry Parr, was finishing up his rounds of window cleaning in a small, sleepy town in the south of England. And he's heading past the local park and he notices something very strange. At the top of the biggest tree in the park, a teenage girl, he thinks around the age of about 14, has fixed one end of a piece of rope around her neck and the other to a part of the tree. She's ready to jump and hang herself. So what does Barry do? Well, he runs as fast as he humanly can to the tree. And he's shouting at her to stay where she is. Don't jump. But she ignores him. So Barry puts the ladder that he has against the trunk of the tree and he climbs up to her. And he's reaching the top of the ladder. He's just about to get to the top and she jumps. Barry manages to catch her in midair before the rope around her neck chokes her. And now he's got her in a grip and he's holding her. And she is struggling and she is fighting with all of her energy to get away from him. So what does he do? He holds onto her for all that he is worth. For over an hour. A full fucking hour. Barry manages to hold on to this 14-year-old girl and keep them on the ladder. Can you imagine the fucking strength that you would have to make sure that you didn't come off that ladder and that you didn't drop this girl? Because if the minute you dropped her, she would be dead from that rope around her neck. So he's holding her and he's holding her. And eventually an elderly woman passes. She sees this and she calls police. Police arrive, and with a separate ladder, they climb up and they cut the rope from the girl's neck, and both she and Barry are brought down to safety. Oof, what a day in life that was for both of them. 5 years after that horrific day, that teenage girl went through some psychiatric treatment, and she came out the other side a well-adjusted young woman. And Barry was a guest at her wedding years later after saving her life. Okay, story 2. John Unger and his girlfriend are in their early 20s and they decide to adopt a dog. So they choose to adopt a rescue dog. They call him Schlep. Great name. Love that. Great name. Schlep the dog. So Schlep is I think he's a kind of like German Shepherd type. Maybe not quite as big as a German Shepherd, but got a German Shepherd vibe going on. So for a few years, John, his girlfriend, and Schlep the dog, they all live quite happily. And then the couple unfortunately have a really horrible breakup. It's nasty, it's bitter. So they split, and John keeps Schlep. At this time, Schlep's about the only friend in the world that John has. John hits now a really dark period in his life. He goes into a really bad depression. And it's during this time John decides that he's going to take his own life. One night he brings home a box of pills and a bottle of vodka. With just him and Schlep in the house, he sits on the couch, he opens the vodka, and he prepares to take the pills. He takes 4 to start with. But here's Schlep the dog. Schlep is on high alert. He's agitated. He knows something isn't right here. He starts to jump up and down on the sofa, trying to sit as close as he can to John. And John's pushing him away, but Schlep, nah, he won't give up. He knows something isn't right. So John is really trying to take these pills, drink this vodka, but Schlep just keeps jumping on him, getting in the way. He's not giving up this dog. Eventually John looks at Schlep and he has a moment of clarity. He realises, as simple as it sounds, this dog doesn't want him dead. If he dies on that couch tonight, what's going to happen to Schlep? John takes the pills and he flushes them away. He makes himself sick to try and remove anything that might be in his stomach. That night he lies down in bed with Schlep in his arms And he thanks fucking God he didn't kill himself. So John and Schlepp, they go on living their lives together. Now Schlepp's getting older and weaker. And as time goes on, he starts to get arthritis. By now he's 19 years old. Whoa, what an age for a dog. 19 years old. Fuck me. John's never been in a position where he could ever really earn much money. He's in a low-paying job. And any money that he has, in fact, all the money that he has, goes towards Schlepp's vet bills and treatments. Now, every day, come rain or shine, John takes Schlepp to a place called Lake Superior. And when they get there, what he does is he carries Schlepp into the water and he gets him to swim a little bit. And then he carries Schlepp around the water. And then to end with, each day, John lies on his back in the water. He puts Schlepp on his chest, and the two of them, they float for a while before going home. Every day in life, John does this. Now, over time, people start to notice, and they ask John, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, Schlepp's got arthritis, but the water, it relaxes him, and it helps him to sleep at night. So when he's been in the water, Schlepp is just a little bit easier in his movements. He's just a little bit more fluid, and he's just a bit more relaxed." So Schlepp's vet bills, they're mounting. They're spiralling out of control, and John's doing his best to pay them, but he can't really, and he just keeps continuing to take him to the lake every day. So a local photographer becomes interested in John and Schlepp and asks if she can take some photos of them in the lake. John says yes. He says he's thinking that actually Schlepp's possibly only got a few weeks left, and having some photographs together would be a nice thing to have. So the photographer, she takes the photographs of them in the lake together. She takes a great photograph of John lying on his back with Schlepp on his chest. And when she's done with these, she uploads them to Facebook. And along the way, she asks John to talk about Schlepp. And he says, "I was once so close to suicide, and Schlepp saved me. And it's all that I can do to make his last few weeks as pain-free as possible. But I can't afford the medication, so I bring him to the lake." Well, this picture, this story, it sends the internet into meltdown. Before John could do any more, people were pledging money all over the place, thousands of dollars, to John to get Schlepp the help that he needed. Schlepp was the hero who had saved his master from suicide. John didn't want this money. He resisted this. He was like, "No, I don't want this money. I don't need this." But actually, deep down, he knew he did need it. Schlepp needed surgery. John just could never afford it. So he took that money. With that money, John was able to get Schlepp medication and an operation on his hip. And Schlepp lived for another 10 months and was healthier and happier than ever. When eventually he died, John said, "I cannot thank him enough for saving my life. And I cannot thank those who helped his life towards the end. I will be forever grateful." Okay, and the final short one. Alright, let's talk about a man called Don Ritchie. Don's an Australian who lives in Sydney. Now, Don has an odd pastime. Unlike you other Australians who... What do you do in your spare time? Well, you probably just, throw boomerangs and, put corks in your hat, listen to Kylie, ride kangaroos. I'm kidding. Of course I'm kidding. Shout out to all the Australians. Shout out to all the Australian listeners. So many of you. Love you. Shout out to Campbell, Tara and Barney, fellow podcasters. Love to you all. So Don, let's get back to him. Don, he and his wife, they have a home which sits up really high near the top of a cliff, and it overlooks a big expanse of water. Now, you can go past their house and you can go higher up a cliff, but you would need skills to get there. I mean, you would need you could do it, but you'd be risking everything to kind of get up there. So they're at a kind of midpoint of this big cliff area that they live in. The cliff that they are at is one of Sydney's hotspots for suicide. Hundreds of Australians every year at the end of their struggle would go up to this spot and they would jump off into the water, and the drop alone would kill them, never mind the water that they went into. Well, that was until Don got involved. When Don and his wife moved to this house, they became aware that this was a hotspot for suicide. And Don made it his mission to watch this path up to the top of the cliff from his window and to try and intercept people going to the cliff. Don had a gentle approach. He would approach the lonely figures and he'd ask, "Where are you going?" And if they said, "Oh, I'm just going up to the top of the cliff," Don would say, "Well, it's a bit of a hike. Why don't you come in, have a cup of tea with me? Maybe a drink, if you want it. My wife could make you something nice to eat. You could have a slice of cake. You could have dinner with us. And, then get on your way." Don would then talk to them for hours. Him and his wife would sit these people down and they would chat to them. They'd make them food. They'd make them feel special, make them feel comfortable. Between 1964 and 2012, Don saved 446 people from killing themselves. People who walked back down that cliff with a change of heart. All because he cared enough to intercept those people and give them time. Give them a bit of human kindness. Invite them in. Offer them a drink. Offer them conversation. Let them spill their heart out in his house while him and his wife listened. And those people went back down. Of course, there were still people who went up and killed themselves. Don couldn't save everyone, but there are so many people, so many families They were saved because of Don and his wife. I go outside every day and I look at people walking the street, living life, going to work, drinking in bars, people walking with their children, fathers holding their daughters' hands to cross the road, drunks spilling out of a pub, a man walking his dog at 8 a.m, a 15-year-old girl on her phone, maybe a group of friends taking a selfie by a statue, maybe the guy who's holding a pint but has a blank look in his eyes, maybe the old woman who's waiting on the next bus and she's clutching her bus pass. I go outside every day and I look at people walking the streets, living their life, and I wonder, will you be the next one? Are you suffering in plain sight? Can I see you now? But tomorrow, you'll be gone. And so ends this week's Stories. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch with me, you can. I'm not hard to find. I'm fairly visible. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on the Twitter. The Instagrams. I'm all over it. I'm on all of your social medias. If you want, well, not Snapchat. I don't get Snapchat. I think it's a young person's game. I don't understand it. So I'm not on Snapchat, don't look for me there. But you can look for me anywhere else and I will be there. I'm also on Patreon should you want to support the podcast. And thank you so much to the new Patreon supporters this week. It really means a lot to me. I cannot tell you how much your any amount means to me. It means an awful lot. Thank you. Yes, so if you want to email me, extraordinarystoriespodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch. You're sending me stories in such high volumes and I love it. I fucking love it. You're sending me stories left, right and centre, and between the stories you're sending me and the stories I want to tell, I could potentially be podcasting till about 2094. So that will be fantastic. So keep sending me stories. And keep getting in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Alright? Until the middle of the week. Goodbye. I didn't like the way I said goodbye there. That was really camp. Until the middle of the week. Goodbye. I'm just going to tell you how I arrived at the theme of this week's episode. I saw a story this week and it really... it just punched me fucking hard in the stomach. It's going around social media. You might have seen it. I just felt really affected. Sat on a train and cried my fucking heart out at it. In Detroit this week, at 6 a.m. in the morning, a man walked on to a bridge over the I-696, one of the major interstates, full of fast traffic and constantly busy. And the man was intending to take his life by jumping into high-speed traffic. Now, what stopped this man began with one truck driver who spotted him, and he stopped his truck below the bridge. He brought his truck to a stop, and immediately he began to flag down other truck drivers. He said to them, "There's a man up there and he's planning to jump." And I could not love this more. 13 truck drivers positioned themselves under the bridge in a way that meant if he tried to jump, this man would have no option but to land on a truck and not the road. They stopped all traffic and they alerted police. For an hour the trucks just sat under the bridge waiting, not not daring to fucking move in case he jumped. Police were able to get up onto the bridge, and they brought the man's girlfriend to the bridge. And at this point they spent an hour and a half talking to him, and he willingly walked off the bridge, and he was taken to a hospital and admitted for psychiatric treatment. Each of the 13 truck drivers will receive a medal for their actions from the state of Michigan. If you're going to be anybody in life, be that one truck driver who spotted that man and acted fast. That story just punched me in the stomach because I thought, you know what? People care. Human beings fucking care for each other. I'm tired of going on fucking Twitter every day and seeing the amount of devastation that's happening in the world and all the shit that's fucking going on. But you know what? Somebody cares. Somebody somewhere cares. That truck driver did, and it saved a man's life.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.